AITA for exposing my sister who left her kids for 10 years, then sued me for taking them? My name is Sarah Miller and today I am 55 years old. But all this started 10 years ago, when I was 45 and working as a nurse in a hospital in Chicago. My younger sister, Jessica, was always the most impulsive of everyone, one of those people for whom the world is too small. She married Kevin Ramirez at a young age, and within a few years they already had 4 children. First Jacob was born, then Lily 2 years later, followed by Maya and finally Leo. By the time Jessica turned 30, she was already in charge of 4 kids, all under 8 years old. And although she claimed she was fine, she looked exhausted. Her marriage was falling apart in front of everyone, but no one said it out loud. She and Kevin argued about everything. The mortgage, the bills, the children, the life they had been handed. Jessica would call me at any hour to vent. I cannot take it anymore, Sarah. I feel trapped. They are your children, Jess. Yes, they are my children, and that is why I feel worse. Because I am supposed to be happy, right? But I am not. I listened to her. Sometimes I tried to advise her, other times I just stayed quiet so she could let out everything she was carrying. Then came the divorce. Kevin left. Jessica stayed with the children. At that time I lived alone in a rented apartment in a suburb just outside the city. It was not a palace, but it was quiet. I almost always worked the day shift, paid my bills, came back tired, had a quick dinner and went to sleep. I never married, I did not have children, and to be honest, I was already at peace with that. 6 months after Jessica's divorce, on a Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and there she was with all 4 of them. Jacob was 8 years old, Lily 6, Maya 4, and Leo barely 2. Jessica looked drained, as if she had not slept in days. She had a large diaper bag hanging from her arm and a look that said, "Do not ask me anything." "Hey, Sarah," she said without smiling. "Can you watch them for an hour? I need to go out and run a few errands." I turned to look at the children. Jacob was already trying to enter as if my house were his. Lily just stared at me quietly. Maya clung to Jessica's leg and Leo started crying because he did not understand what was happening. "Yes, of course," I answered. "Come in." Jessica tossed the bag at me. "Here are diapers and some snacks for them. I will be right back. It is only an hour. Just wait. Where are you going?" But she had already turned around. She did not even look at me. "Thanks, Sarah, really. I will be right back." And she left. The kids came in. Jacob and Lily went straight to the living room and turned on the TV. Maya would not leave my side. Leo was crying and reaching his arms toward the door. I picked him up and hugged him to my chest. "Calm down, sweetie. Your mom is going to come back soon." I believed it too. Or rather, I wanted to believe it. An hour passed. Then 2, then 3. I called Jessica. She did not answer. I called again. Nothing. I went into the kitchen. I opened the bag looking for her wallet, some ID, anything that would tell me where she was. Between diapers and bags of crackers, I found a little piece of paper folded up, as if torn in a hurry from a notebook. It said, "I will be back soon. Thank you, Sarah." That was it. There was no address, no explanation, nothing. I called her again. At first it rang and then went to voicemail. By nightfall, the call did not even go through. The next day, that number was no longer in service. I looked for her email and wrote to the last one I had. The email bounced back with an error message, as if it had never existed. I stared at my cell phone with my stomach in knots. In the living room, the children were still there as if the world had not broken. Then I did what I thought was the most logical thing. I called my parents. They lived in a modest house in a working-class suburb. They were already retired. They lived on just enough but peacefully. "Mom, have you heard anything from Jessica? She is not with you. She came yesterday. She left the children with me. She said she was coming back in an hour and she has not returned." There was a heavy silence, the kind that scares you. "No, it cannot be, Sarah," my mom said quietly. "She would not do that." I really wanted to believe her, but days passed. Then a week, then 2. Jessica did not return. And at some point, when I no longer knew what else to do, reality hit me all at once. It was not that she had been delayed. It was not that her car had broken down or that she had lost her cell phone. She was gone. She had left her 4 children at my door and disappeared. That night, when I put them to bed, Jacob asked me bluntly, "When is my mom coming back?" My voice caught in my throat. "She is taking care of some things," I told him. "She needs time." Lily did not ask. She just looked at me with eyes full of tears, as if she already knew the answer and did not want to hear it. Maya pulled on my shirt and whispered, "My mom left because I was bad." I hugged her tightly. "No, my sweet girl, it is not because of you. You did not do anything wrong." Leo was so little that he only called for his mom out of habit. As the days went by, he stopped asking, and somehow that broke me even more. I had to move fast. I could not stay paralyzed. I enrolled Jacob and Lily in the local public school. I looked for someone to help me with Maya and Leo while I worked. A neighbor recommended a trustworthy lady who ran a small in-home daycare, but she charged, and I was barely understanding what it meant to support 5 people on a single salary. My income as a nurse was decent for me alone. For 5, it was a different story. I started taking night shifts because they paid a little better, and because that way I could be with them during the day. I worked from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. I would come back with swollen feet, my body aching, take a quick shower and try to sleep for a few hours. Sometimes I fell asleep sitting up, my head nodding off, and then I would wake up to the noise of the children looking for their things for school. I bought school supplies wherever they were cheapest, sometimes at Walmart, sometimes at the dollar store, looking for sales as if my life depended on it, because yes, my life was draining away in that. Their clothes were from thrift stores, hand-me-downs, or whatever I could find in good condition. I learned to choose with a quick eye and mend whatever was needed. The food had to stretch. Spaghetti, chili, casseroles, chicken and rice. Simple things, the kind that go a long way and are enough for everyone. At night, even though my eyes hurt from exhaustion, I sat with Jacob and Lily to check their homework. "Look, Jacob, this is how you do the problem. Let us try again." "Sarah, I am getting sleepy," Lily would say, yawning. "Me too, honey, but just a little bit more." Without realizing it, I was running out of my own life. I stopped buying myself clothes. I wore my scrubs until they were faded. I stopped going out with friends. I stopped treating myself. I stopped making plans. My world became just that. For children, an apartment that no longer felt like mine, and a constant fear of not being enough. Sometime later I went to ask for government assistance, not because I wanted to, but because I needed it. A social worker from the Department of Children and Family Services came to the house, checked the space, talked to me, and talked to the children. I was nervous, not because I had anything to hide, but because when someone comes in to inspect your life, you feel exposed. In the end, the woman told me something I will never forget. "The children look well cared for, they are stable. The effort you are making is clear." They guided us through the process to receive state aid, and for the kids to qualify for the free lunch program at school. It was not a fortune, but it helped. That gave me a break with the groceries, for school supplies, for medicine when they got sick. My friend Amanda was also an angel for us. She would bring me food in containers when I could no longer handle everything. "I brought a casserole and some salad," she would say, walking in as if it were her house. "Do not argue with me, eat." Sometimes she would take care of the kids when I had to cover a double shift. "Go, do not worry. I will stay." My parents helped when they could, but they did not have much. They lived on a very small pension and Social Security. Even so, whenever they could, they would tell me, "We are going to transfer you some money, honey." I always answered the same way, with embarrassment. "It is not necessary." But it was necessary. The years slipped away from me the way everything does when you are just surviving. Fast, blurry, without pause. When Jacob went to middle school, he started falling in love with science. He was smart, but not at all a show-off. One of those kids who ask questions that force you to think. Lily joined the school choir. She had a beautiful voice. I went to all her performances, even if I was coming off a night shift and my eyes burned with sleep. I would sit in the front row and watch her sing, as if in that moment that was the only good thing in the world. Maya started dance classes. I could not pay for expensive studios, but I did find an affordable workshop through the Park District, and when they asked for costumes, I managed. Sometimes I bought used ones online, sometimes I altered them myself. Leo became a whirlwind. He loved soccer. As soon as I could, I put him in a youth league. On Saturdays, I was on the sideline shouting his name as if the game were a championship. "That is it, Leo, run." And he would turn around, smile, and in that instant I forgot everything else. 2 years before Jessica returned, my parents died. First my mom, then my dad 6 months later. I felt like the ground had fallen out from under me. Without that place I could still run to and cry without anyone seeing me. They left me their house. It was the only truly valuable thing they had. It was a property in a decent suburb, well located, the kind that over the years becomes worth a lot of money. On paper, it was worth between $400,000 and $500,000. I did not sell it, I did not dare. I felt it was the last thing I had left of them, and at the same time the only thing that could secure the children's future. I rented it out. A couple $1,000s a month started coming in. It did not make us rich, but it closed the financial hole I had been carrying for years. For the first time, I could breathe without feeling like money was slipping through my fingers. And then when I thought that life was finally settling down, Jessica returned. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was at home during a rare day off. The doorbell rang. I opened the door and there she was. 10 years later. Her hair was styled, her makeup impeccable. Her clothes looked expensive. She smelled of a fine perfume. She was not the exhausted Jessica who had left 4 kids at my door. She was another person. Next to her was a tall man in a suit holding a briefcase. "Hello, Sarah," Jessica said in a cold voice, as if everything that had happened was no big deal. I was speechless. I felt like I could not breathe. The man spoke first. "May we come in? I am attorney Mark Richardson." "And who are you to enter my house?" I answered, recovering my voice as best I could. "I am Jessica's lawyer." Jessica did not wait for permission. She walked in as if the place belonged to her. The lawyer followed behind her. The 4 kids were in the living room. Jacob was studying in his room. Lily was practicing a song. Maya was doing homework at the table. Leo was watching TV. When Jessica crossed the living room, everyone turned around. There was a strange, heavy silence. Jacob came out of his room when he heard voices and froze. "Mom," he said. Jessica barely looked at him. Not a hug, not a smile, not a, "How are you?" Nothing. "We need to talk," Jessica told me without turning to look at them. The lawyer took out some papers and handed them to me. "You have been served. This is a petition filed with the court. Ms. Ramirez is requesting full custody of her children." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "What?" Jessica raised her chin. "You have kept them here for 10 years without my permission. You took them from me. You stole them from me." Lily let out a small sob. Maya covered her mouth with her hand. Leo frowned, confused. Jacob stood next to me as if he wanted to protect me. "Are you being serious?" I said to Jessica. "You left them. You abandoned them here." "That is not true," she replied with a calmness that made me furious. "I was going through a very difficult time. It was temporary. I always intended to return." "And why did you never call?" I blurted out. "Why did you never write? Why did you disappear?" Jessica pointed her finger at me as if I were the guilty one. "Because you would not let me see them. You blocked all contact." It was a lie, a massive lie. But she said it with such certainty that for a second I felt fear. Fear that someone would believe her. The lawyer cleared his throat. "We will see you in family court, Ms. Miller. The hearing is scheduled in 3 weeks." And they left just like that, as if it were nothing. The 4 of them stayed glued to me. Maya was crying. Leo hugged my leg. Lily was trembling. Jacob clenched his jaw. "Aunt Sarah," Leo started, and corrected himself as if he were suddenly embarrassed. "We do not want to go with her." "And you are not going to go," Jacob said firmly. I nodded. "Of course not." But inside my world was collapsing. That night, when everyone went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table looking at the court papers as if they were a threat. And then I understood. Jessica had not come back for them. She did not ask them anything. She did not want to hug them. She did not care if they were doing well or poorly. She did not even ask what school they were in, what they liked, what they had experienced. She came back for money, for my parents' house. And the worst part is that she had not returned when my parents died. She did not return when I was burying them. She did not return when the children cried for their grandparents. She returned only now. Then the answer hit me. Jessica had not found out earlier, or at least not in detail. In my family, there was always someone who talked too much, And shortly before, a cousin had unintentionally commented at a gathering that I was already renting out my parents' house and that I was finally on solid ground. That was what made her come back. Not them, the idea that there was money. I was not going to let her use the kids to tear away the only thing we had built. The next morning I started looking for everything. I found the little piece of paper Jessica left in the diaper bag that day. I kept it all those years. I do not even know why. Maybe because a part of me needed to prove that I was not crazy. I found old messages. Messages where she asked me for money, where she complained about her life, and where she never once asked about the children. And then I remembered Kevin, the children's dad. He ran into some serious legal trouble about a year after Jessica disappeared. He was in prison for several years. When he got out a couple of years before all this, I let him see the children from time to time, but always with me present in public places. I was not going to put them at risk. I just wanted to make sure that if he was truly trying to change, the kids could see him without fear. I looked for his number and called him. "Kevin, it is Sarah." He stayed quiet. "What happened?" "Jessica returned. She wants custody." Kevin let out a breath as if that did not surprise him. "Of course, she probably needs money. Did she ever reach out to you about the kids?" I asked with a tight voice. "Not once," he said. "Not once. To her, it was as if they did not exist." Then he lowered his voice. "Sarah, I have something you need to see." "What is it?" "A video. Jessica does not know it exists, but it will help you." That same day I drove to his apartment. It was about 6 in the evening and traffic was heavy. I moved at almost a snail's pace, and even so I could not stop thinking about what he was going to show me. Kevin let me in. He looked different, thinner, more serious. He was not the man I remembered. He was someone who had paid dearly for his mistakes. We sat in his living room. He took out his cell phone. "This was about a year after Jessica left the kids with you," he told me. "A friend of mine recognized her at a bar. He was shocked by what she was saying and recorded it. He sent it to me that same night. I saved it. I did not use it before because even I was ashamed. I felt I had no right to speak after everything I did. But this is different now. They are my children and I am not going to let her use them." He pressed play. There was Jessica sitting at a bar laughing, drinking, surrounded by people I did not know. And then she said with a smile as if telling a joke, "For kids was just too much. I could not take it anymore. I needed a clean slate. New life, new guy. Let Sarah deal with it." The people around her laughed. Jessica continued, "It is even better this way. I am free now. Now I can really live." I felt my hands turn ice cold. I felt nauseous, as if I had been thrown into a void. When the video ended, I kept staring at the cell phone as if it were poison. "Can I use this in court?" I asked him. "Yes," Kevin said. "And if necessary, I will testify." I returned home and looked for a lawyer. Amanda recommended one to me, attorney David Chun. The next day I went to his office with everything. The little piece of paper, the messages, and the video. David watched it twice, then looked at me calmly. "This is very sensitive," he said, "and it helps us a lot. She is going to have to explain way too much." The 3 weeks before the hearing were the longest of my life. I did not sleep well, I did not eat well. I was afraid that a judge, just to check a box, would decide that they had to go back to their mom, simply because she is the mom. Jacob was quiet, as if he carried the world on his shoulders. Lily cried silently at night. Maya had nightmares. Leo asked me every day, "Am I going to go with her?" I would hug him. "No, sweetie, you are not going." But the truth is that I did not know what was going to happen either. I only knew that I was going to fight for them. The day of the hearing, we all went. We left early to avoid traffic, but even so, the drive felt endless. We arrived at the courthouse with our hearts in our throats. David told me it was important for the judge to see the children. Jessica was already there with her lawyer. She looked flawless, wearing an expensive dress and flashy jewelry. She looked like a person with money. We entered the courtroom. I felt my legs shaking. When Judge Evans arrived, everyone stood up. The hearing began. Jessica's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, my client left her children in the temporary care of her sister due to severe personal difficulties. She always intended to return, but Ms. Miller denied her access to her children for 10 years. I listened and could not believe it. All of that was a completely fabricated story. I turned to look at Jessica and she did not even blink. Then David stood up. With all due respect, Your Honor, that is false. We have evidence. David showed the little piece of paper. This is the only thing the mother left. It says, I will be back soon. That was 10 years ago. She never returned. She cut off all communication. Then he showed the text messages. For years she only asked for money. There is not a single message asking about her children. The opposing lawyer tried to object. Your Honor, that does not prove abandonment. David did not get upset. Then let us look at this as a whole. Ms. Ramirez, you are here after finding out that there is an inherited property and that it is generating income. This is not out of love, it is for money. Jessica's lawyer raised his voice. That is an assumption. The judge raised his hand, calming the room. Ms. Ramirez, he said, looking at Jessica. Where were you these 10 years? Jessica stood up. I was dealing with depression, Your Honor. I had personal problems. I needed to fix my life to be a good mother. David looked her straight in the eye. In those 10 years, how many times did you look for your children? Jessica swallowed hard. I tried, but Sarah blocked me. I stood up without thinking. That is a lie, Your Honor. I called her many times. I wrote to her. I asked my parents to look for her. She disappeared. The judge looked at me seriously. Ms. Miller, did you try to contact her? Yes, Your Honor, dozens of times. And eventually her number was no longer even in service. The judge remained silent for a few seconds, then did something I did not expect. I want to hear from the minors, especially the oldest. Jacob went first. He was already 18 years old. He stood tall, serious, with firm shoulders. Your Honor, he said in a clear voice. Sarah raised us for 10 years. She worked night shifts so we would have food. She helped us with homework even when she was exhausted. She went to school meetings, to our events, to everything. She is our mom. The judge nodded. Jacob, what is it that you want? I want to stay with her, and my siblings do too. Lily went next, crying but without losing her voice. I do not want to go with my mom, she said, pointing at Jessica, and her hand trembled. I do not know her. Sarah has always been there. She is my family. Maya went up with a pale face. My mom left, she said. Sarah took care of us when no one else did. Leo was the last one. He looked tiny in front of all those adults. It broke my heart. I only know my mom, Sarah, he said. My home is with her. I was already crying. I could not help it. And then at that moment the door opened. Kevin walked in. Jessica turned pale, as if the ground had been pulled out from under her. Your Honor, Kevin said. I am Kevin Ramirez, father of the children. I bring a video that you must see. David signaled to him. Kevin approached and showed his cell phone. The judge watched the video in silence. His expression hardened as he heard Jessica's voice saying she was free, that she wanted a new life, that Sarah should take care of it. When it finished, the courtroom was left in a heavy silence. Whispers could be heard. The children were in shock. It was the first time they clearly heard the real reason. Jessica stood up quickly. Your Honor, I was in a bad place. I said things without thinking. I did want to come back. The judge looked at her coldly. 10 years, he said. You had 10 years. Jessica opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The judge reviewed the papers, looked at the children, looked at me, looked at Jessica, and then said the words that changed my life. I have heard enough. Ms. Ramirez's petition is denied. The evidence shows intentional abandonment. Ms. Miller has provided a stable and loving home for a decade. Full legal and physical custody are definitively granted to Ms. Miller. I let out a breath as if I had been drowning for 10 years. The judge continued. Furthermore, an order of protection is issued for 7 years. Ms. Ramirez may not approach or contact the children without court authorization. Jessica started crying. Please, they are my children. The judge did not raise his voice. He did not need to. They were your children. You decided to leave. Hearing adjourned. That was it. We hugged each other right there. Jacob cried. Lily cried. Maya cried. Leo clung to me like when he was little. Jessica left with her lawyer. She did not say goodbye. She did not look at them a single time. Later I found out more details. Jessica had been living beyond her means. She rented an apartment in an expensive part of the city and showed off a life she could not afford. Leased car outings, clothes, appearances. She hoped that with the lawsuit I would sell my parents' house and she would get a cut. She wanted to support herself with that money. When she could not, everything fell apart. Between debts and trial expenses, she was left with nothing. She had to leave the apartment, return the car, and ended up in a small, cramped place, trying to survive with a cashier job at a supermarket. I did not rejoice, I did not mock her, but I could not feel pity either. She had abandoned 4 children and then tried to tear them away from me for money. Over time we moved to the house my parents left me. It was bigger, there was real space. Every child had their own room for the first time. Jacob finished high school with honors and enrolled at the University of Illinois to study biology. I took him on the first day and watched him walk with his backpack as if the world was finally opening up for him. Lily continued with music. They started seeking her out for scholarships and school projects because she truly had talent. I went to everything always. Maya joined a dance team at her school. She was disciplined as if she had been born for it. Leo became one of the best in his soccer league. By the age of 12, there were already people saying that if he kept it up, he could go far. I just watched him run and thought, look how much you have grown, my boy. I kept working as a nurse, but now on the day shift. The house was already paid off, the rental income helped, and with my salary I no longer needed to destroy myself working nights. Amanda stayed close. She was part of the family. One day, drinking coffee in the kitchen, she looked at me and said, "You did an enormous job, Sarah. Just look at how they turned out." They were there, each with their own thing but peaceful, stable, united. "They did their part," I replied. "I only gave them a safe place." "Do not downplay yourself," she told me. "You gave your all for them." And it was true. As the months passed, something changed without me asking for it. The kids stopped calling me aunt. They started calling me mom. It was not sudden, it was not out of obligation. It was like how a plant grows when you water it every day. One day it simply happened. The first time was Leo. I was making dinner and he peeked into the kitchen. "Mom, can I have a snack?" I stood still with the spoon in my hand. "What did you say to me?" He turned red, as if he had done something wrong. "Is it wrong? You do not want me to." I pulled him toward me and hugged him tightly. "It is not wrong. On the contrary, thank you, my love." Jacob went to college and called me on Sundays. Lily kept singing and I would watch her and feel like crying with pride. Maya practiced dance in the living room, careful not to knock anything over. Leo played soccer in any free space, as if his body moved on its own. The order of protection was still in effect for 7 years. By the time it expired, Jacob would be 25. Lily 23, Maya 21, and Leo 19. They would be adults, and if they ever wanted to talk to Jessica, it would be their decision, not mine. I was not going to push them. Nor was I going to open a door that took us 10 years to securely close. One Sunday afternoon we were all in the living room. Jacob had come home from college that weekend. Lily was quietly rehearsing a song. Maya was stretching for her practice. Leo was playing a video game. Jacob looked at me. "Mom, can we talk?" I looked up. "Of course, son." The other 3 came closer. They sat around. Jacob took a deep breath. "We wanted to tell you something." I felt a knot in my throat. Lily spoke first. "We know what you gave up for us." Maya nodded. "We know you worked nights, that you did not rest, that it was all so we would be okay." Leo looked at me with those huge eyes. "You are the best mom we could have." Tears slipped out. I could not help it. "You do not have to thank me," I said, wiping my face as best I could. "Being your mom is the best thing that has happened to me." Jacob smiled with that seriousness of his when he speaks from the heart. "We are going to take care of you when we grow up, just like you took care of us." I let out a small laugh. "You already take care of me every day just by being here." We hugged. All 5 of us squeezed together in the middle of the living room, as if with that hug we could leave behind everything bad. That night, when they went to sleep, I went out to the backyard and sat in silence for a while. I thought about the afternoon when Jessica left 4 scared children at my door. I thought about so many sleepless nights, about the fear, about the anguish of not knowing if I was doing it right, and I realized something. Yes, I was enough. They were the proof. Jessica tried to snatch them from me. She tried to use her pain to get money, but she could not, because those children were no longer my niece and nephews. They were my children, and I was their mom. I looked up at the dark sky and thought about my parents. I thought that this house they left me saved us, as if they had somehow known that we were going to need it. "Thank you," I whispered. I do not know if they heard me, but I felt it. The future looked clear. Jacob was going to pave his way in science. Lily with her voice, Maya with her dance, Leo with his sport. Or maybe they would change their minds and do something else. It did not matter. They had a home and I had them. And for me that was everything. Today, before you go to sleep, say a little prayer or call that older relative who lives alone. Sometimes your voice is the only hug they are going to receive all day. A comment. What really stays with me from this story is how love is in action. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to draw a firm line. It shows that real family isn't just about blood, but about who shows up and takes responsibility when life gets tough. Healing doesn't always mean fixing what was broken. It often means building something new and beautiful from the pieces. Your worth isn't defined by those who leave, but by the love you choose to give and receive. Choosing your peace is a powerful act of self-respect. True kindness requires courage to protect the safe space you have created. I hope this reminds you that you have the strength to create your own stability and happiness. Thank you for being here and reflecting with me. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.